I hope you enjoy your time together.
Exactly. What's so funny?
Put the diamond in the coat. We quote Titanic so often in my house. My 5-year-old walks around going, I put the coat on her!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is the new Carganilla online variety entertainment podcast. Leading off, your host, Paul Carganilla.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Carganilla Online Variety Entertainment, or COVE podcast, where we aim to entertain and inspire you through a variety of forms, including music, storytelling, special guest interviews, and so much more. If you'd like to not just listen to, but watch this episode and see our faces and the visuals we refer to throughout our conversation today, you can find the YouTube version of this show at COVEpodcast.com. I'm your host, Paul Carganilla, and I am so excited for today's episode. I mean, I'm so excited for every episode of the show, but this is going to be super fun. As I divulged in my Everything About Me in 60 Seconds or Less in episode 1 of the podcast, I am a huge Titaniac. I am fascinated about every piece of information about the actual Titanic ship and its history, but I'm also a super fan of the movie, as all my friends know. When the movie came out in December of 1997, I was a junior in high school on Christmas break. My brother worked at the local Man movie theater in Simi Valley, and he could sign guests in. I saw the film 10 times in the theater that year, the first time it was in theaters. And today, 25 years later, it is still one of my 2 number 1 favorite films. In a fun conversation, somebody recently asked me if you could go back to any place in time, anywhere in history, and witness something live, what would it be? And I thought about all the amazing possibilities, like attending a Rat Pack show in Vegas, or being there in Dodger Stadium when Kirk Gibson hits his home run in the 88 World Series. But eventually I came around to this answer. I would be there. I would be there on set in 1996 when James Cameron was making Titanic. I'd be an assistant director or a background actor or even just a fly on the wall, just watching it, witnessing it all unfold. And our guest here today was exactly that. She was there for nearly 7 months, the entire filming, as a core extra. And she kept a journal, which she turned into a book, put out a book. And I am so thrilled that she agreed to answer my questions today, have a conversation today. And the way that our paths crossed is a crazy story in itself. Many of my friends on social media know that recently, for our anniversary, my wife Jamie surprised me with a piece of the movie set, the capstan crane wheel that Kate clutches, or Rose clutches, and is holding on to the moment she decides she's going to jump off the ship. And in the package that I received when Jamie got this from the former owner, he listed Judy Prestininzi as a former owner of this prop or set piece. And I thought that was interesting. So I Googled Judy and I found her on social media, and I sent her a cold call message or saying, hey, you don't know me, but I'd love to have a conversation about this. And while all this was going on, I listened to another podcast called Unsinkable. And on the podcast, the host, LA Beatles, had Alexandra Boyd and Nelson Aspen, who recently started their own Titanic Talk podcast. And they had Judy on. And on their podcast, I learned that Judy had written this book. I didn't know about it before. So I got it as soon as I could, and I started reading it. And at the same time, Judy got my message and responded and reached out, and we connected on social media. And she has just been so wonderful and an angel ever since in our communications. And she said yes to being on the show today. And we're so excited to have her. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Judy Prestininzi, author of Living the Legend, the Journal of a Titanic Background Actress. Hello, Judy.
Hi, Paul.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, I'm happy to.
Oh, so happy to have you here. It looks sunny and beautiful where you are. What coast are you joining us from?
I'm in San Diego. I was actually born and raised here.
that's a perfect segue to our segment. Now, I torture our guests on this show by this little icebreaker called tell us everything we could possibly know about you in 60 seconds or less. Are you ready to try? You ready to try it? Should I get my timer started?
Okay. 60 seconds or less.
We're not going to stop you. We're not going to stop you if you go over. In the first episode, I went 6 minutes. So.
Well, I was born and raised here in San Marcos, California. I started my interest in Titanic when I was 7 years old. When I first saw the Clifton Webb Titanic, they would have what they call a TV guide. And we got that, and I remember every year they would come out at the same time. So I would start watching in like March or April for that TV guide to come out, so I could mark the day when I would see that Titanic movie again and again. And then as I got older, I started hearing about Ballard trying to find the wreck. And I was just glued to everything that they talked about. I homeschooled my boys. So when, probably they were 8, 9 years old at the time, I started getting the 16 millimeter movie projectors and showing the clips of Titanic newsreels at home.
Wow.
And like I said, when they started talking about the expeditions to find the wreck, I was totally fascinated. And I rode horses. I professional for 11 years until I was 17. Got married when I was 18. Had 2 children by the time I was 19. And then just life and all of that good stuff. And in 95, I think it was mid 95, late 95, early 96, my son, Craig, was going to Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, and he called me up one night and he goes, "Mom, they're going to make Titanic again." And I went, "Why?" So they had already done so many. And he goes, "Well, your favorite director is going to be doing it." And he told me it was James Cameron. And he says, "They're going to do it down in Rosarita Beach." And I went, "Why?" Because I'd been to Rosarita Beach and was not impressed with the area at the time. And so we've heard about the set and all of that. And so he told me that they were going to have a casting call. So that started me on the road to doing the film. Anyway, there's been a number of things throughout this time. You know, when I went down to the set, it was already like a month and a half late starting production. And so I didn't think that I was going to get called.
Right.
And I was sick one night, and it was about 9:30, 10 o'clock. My husband comes in, and I was in bed, and I'm like, "Yeah, what do you want?" And he's like, "Take's on the phone." I went, "What?" 9:30 at night.
Yeah.
They wanted me down in Mexico the next day.
The next day.
The next day.
Wow.
Now, we don't have maps of Tijuana. We don't have GPS. So it was like, how do you get to where we're going without I'd been down there years ago, but
Sure.
You know, you get across and they tell you, okay, well, you see the hotel to your right. And then you go down this street and you have to turn here. And if you see this, then you're not there. And anyway, we ended up at a dirt parking lot it was called Senior Frogs. And it was a little dirt parking lot. And that's where our adventure began.
Can you tell us what the audition process was like?
Well, we went down. I knew where it was going to be. And so I got down there early. And there was already people standing around the block, you know, starting to go around the block. And it really was no audition. It was like you fill out your casting lists, how tall you are, what's your size, what's this, that's that, do you have long hair, do you have short hair? Really, that's all there was.
Okay.
And then the process, when we got down there, that's when the questions really started.
After you were hired.
After we were hired,
Gotcha.
yes.
And
Originally, they only wanted me for a 3-day shoot. I was supposed to be in the gymnasium on the mechanical horse. And when I got there, they wanted to put a size 3 outfit on me. I'm like, I have never been a size 3 in my whole life. And I'm only 5 feet tall. This outfit, it had a waist like this big around. And it was probably a foot longer than I am tall. So that was out of the question.
So you're built like a jockey, and so they want to put you on a mechanical horse, right?
Which I was fine with that. That was cool. But, the 3-day shoot obviously turned into something a lot longer. And it was amazing.
And all because you're there and you're willing. And that's something that really struck me about you when reading your book was your work ethic, your willingness to work. And I think I told you, I was a background actor for a couple of years professionally trying to get my SAG card, and it was hard work. And it seems like it wouldn't be, to a lot of people to think, oh, you're in the background in a movie. Like, how hard can that be? But it's tedious. There's long hours. And reading your book, I really got a kick out of just hearing your experience as someone who's done it before. And here you are, and in your book, you go day by day. You're keeping this journal, and I could relate to so much that you were talking about because of my experience. But I think that anybody who's a fan of movie making in general, not just Titanic, would enjoy reading your book. And I definitely encourage anyone out there to pick it up, as we'll talk about it a little bit more in just a bit. But one of my favorite parts of the story is when you get on the bus and you think you're going to a Hollywood James Cameron movie set. You have these high expectations, and they make you park in a dirt parking lot at Senior Frogs, and then the bus comes and can you just describe the bus for everyone?
Oh gosh, the bus. Well, some of the tires were bald. There was a hole in the roof for air. And then this guy, he stood on the, the steps, and we're like going around corners and everything. And it was interesting to say the least, but it wasn't like a tour bus like you would think that was coming to get us. It was not. There was no heat. There was no air.
More like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Yeah.
One of the common themes in the stories from the background actors that I've heard from Alexandra's documentary, Ship of Dreams, Titanic Movie Diaries, that you are also in, is the first time, the reveal, I like to call it, the first time you see the set. Can you describe what that was like when you were driving down there on that bus? When
we were coming through Rosarito, it was like maybe another mile to the set, and the road was kind of going up and down, and then all of a sudden we come to this peak, and we're like, we could start seeing the funnels, and it was like, oh my gosh, there she is, there's Titanic.
And the thing was, Fox literally built that plot of land to put the studio there to film this movie, right? So as you're getting there, they're still building the studio to build the movie.
Yes, 24-hour construction.
Wow. And so
the main buildings were there, the set buildings and the extras building, and all of the prop buildings were all there. We walked through this. When we'd started walking to where we needed to be, we were going past all of the prop buildings. The large building down at the bottom corner there on the right, that was where we were. That was the extras, wardrobe, everything. And the next buildings, the one with the big black wall, that was the interior set where the dining room, the labyrinth of hallways, Kate's suite, all of that was in there.
The staterooms and the hallways and the
Right.
the maze, the lower deck mazes, really.
Right.
Very.
And then across from that, the smaller buildings, the one was the indoor tank where we were when that was our first venture into the set, was the indoor tank that was about 3.5, 4 feet deep. And that was the one that we were in primarily for the first few weeks while we were there.
Yeah, so I do want to talk about that, but briefly want to discuss, just like real quick, your wardrobe experience. Getting your costumes was a nightmare, right? You'd think, again, big Hollywood movie, this would all go pretty smooth, but they were giving you mildewy stuff that got your skin irritated, and you were breaking out.
My whole upper body broke out. I had rash under my arms, and
you go through this wardrobe nightmare, and then your next step is like a swim test, so the producers can find out if you can swim or not. And along the lines, they see how well you scream, and you're like, I grew up on a ranch, I can scream. And you stood out really in both the swim and the scream tests. And then you finally arrive on set, and your first big filming experience is in the tank, as you just mentioned, where Titanic has gone under, and we're splashing around, and you're in you've got a wetsuit on under your costume, and they put you right next to Kate.
Yes.
Who plays Rose, obviously.
We actually had a scene where we had a hold of each other, where we're facing each other, and they cut that out, so it just looks like I'm being pushed away. But they don't show her and I actually have a hold of each other with our life jackets. So we're like this, and then she pushes me away.
I heard you talking about this on another show. So last night I actually went and I was going back frame by frame, and I was showing my wife. So you're saying like you're holding each other, and then but with the editing, as soon as they start that cut, she like swings her hand forward, and it looks like she punches you right in the face.
Yeah.
And you kind of spin away and bob away. But you're actually there. So before that, you're in the shot where Kate comes up for the first time after they've gone under, and she comes up. You're actually there before she is. You're right there behind her on her shoulder, and bouncing around and calling for help, screaming for help. And then there's a quick shot of two gentlemen fighting over a barrel trying to swing on. And then they cut back, and that's when Kate's like smacking you in the face, it looks like.
Well, she really didn't. That's what's so odd, you know.
It's the editing, and it's all in the editing, right?
Yeah, it just, I guess because we were like this, and then I pull away, and she's like trying to get away from me,
right?
Because like I said, we had a hold of each other, and
you're wiping your hair out of your eyes there. That's like right before she clocks you in the movie, but then it cuts back in the editing. Yeah, it really looks like she just smacks you one. But so how long were you in the tank for that general stuff? That was really, as I mentioned, your first on-set experience there. Right.
They gave us 3 mil wetsuits. We were in there from anywhere from 10 to 12, 14 hours, depending on what we were doing. It was heated to like, I want to say like 75, 70, I forget. They couldn't have it any warmer because they didn't want it steaming. So that's why they kept us in the wetsuits, so we could be in the water for a long period of time. Of course, they didn't make us stay in the water all that time. We got breaks, and if you had to use the restroom, boy, did we get good at getting out of those wetsuits and getting back to the tank in an expedited period of time.
Yeah. I can't imagine having been on movie sets and seeing how tedious and long everything takes. Just like being in water on a movie set's got to be really hard.
Actually, it wasn't. What was bad was we had one day, our longest day, they ran out of propane to heat it, and it really started getting cold. So and we didn't have gas to heat up the water in our showers either. That was what got really bad.
Just no way to warm up,
but that was just one day,
right?
And they couldn't apologize to us enough.
And you describe that day in your book, and I just love. So when I was in high school, I was like the historian of the marching band. So I would carry my camera around and take videos and pictures of everyone. And, high school kids are rude, and everyone would make fun of me for being the dad with the camera. Oh, hey, dad's here. Let's all take a picture. But now they're all reaching out to me saying, do you have those pictures? Hey, yeah. could I get those videos from you? And that's kind of how when I was reading your book, I thought of, what amazing foresight you had to be keeping a journal. And this is a thing where this is a whole subject we could do a whole nother episode on, but James Cameron, nobody on set filming this epic Hollywood classic had any idea what it was going to be, if it was going to be a huge hit or a flop. I think the budget was originally $100 million and it ended up being 200.
Like 200.
James was putting his own money in, and they were getting other studios involved. But at the same time, nobody had any idea it was going to be what it is. And so
that was just a shot there of Jim with, he called that big camera there in the gray, he called that Moby Dick. So we knew that we were going to get the camera bias every time he put that in the water.
And you describe all of that. You describe Moby Dick. You describe this whole process so wonderfully in your journal. And so it all just comes back around to me saying, I'm so grateful for you recording this in your journal and sharing it with everybody. This is Living the Legend, the journal of a Titanic background actress. And one of our participants in the live YouTube chat says, I just ordered Judy's book on Amazon. Yay, Emily, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. Would you do us a favor and read a little bit from your book?
Okay. Which one would you like first?
Since we're talking about the tank, maybe chapter 6.
Okay.
This was like your 4th day actually on set, I believe.
Yeah. This was October 2nd on a Wednesday. We didn't have to be back on the set until like 7 a.m. It is almost light outside when we get there. We are told that we got to the gate, that the parking lot they wanted us to park in finally had lights. I thanked them, and we went out to the new lot. Now, before that, we were literally parking in the dark. So we found some changes in our catering. We hope that this is a positive sign, and again, thank those in charge a lot. There are changes in our makeup also. Little did we know what we were in for. I am to be frozen. Wax is melted and applied to my hair, my eyebrows, and my eyelashes. They apply it with paint brushes and Q-tips. Before they put the wax on my hair, they rub a little bit of Vaseline through it. And this is to make it so the wax doesn't stick so bad. But they really should have used Pam instead. Now we get very dead makeup. Like what we had before, we had like a bluing put on our fingers and around our eyes. You really can't see it too well. Medical adhesive is applied in various areas of our face and our hands. Then they apply this stuff that looks like gelatin. It swells when they spray it with water, but it stays whitish and looks like ice. We are guinea pigs at this point because they had never used this stuff before. We also are told that it is very expensive, about $25 for about 3 or 4 ounces. They soon discovered that 2 layers that they had applied was too much. They only needed 1 application. The stuff dries out and contracts, so throughout the day, we keep getting sprayed with water to keep it puffy and soft. When this happens, it expands, so our face feels like we are having contractions all day. When it dries, it feels like big crusty scabs. When wet, it feels like snot. Some of the guys keep pulling it off, and this makes the makeup people upset. I just left it alone. Mr. Cameron takes special joy in making fun of some of us. It is refreshing when a busy man will stop in the middle of everything, look down at me, and laugh at what I look like. He said, "You have an ice mustache." Notice I didn't say nice. I smiled as he walked away, and he added, "I really like the effect, though." And he also told Rick, that was another gentleman that was close by me, that he looked like a walrus because he had a mustache and he had it all down in his mustache. Today would be different, much more emotional than before. Maybe because we are not moving around and I have time to imagine the past we are portraying. All the pipes and hoses have been removed. A lifeboat is now in the debris field. The lights are low and as quiet as we enter the water. It's almost as if the crew has sort of a reverence for what we were about to do. Everyone is to be dead now. The lifeboat is coming back to search for survivors. We are told what to expect and how to maintain our positions without floating so far away from them. We are also told that they are very happy with a lot of the footage already shot. That even Kate was disturbed at some of the footage because it appeared to be so real. Now we're ready. Josh, as usual, with his familiar and ever-present shh, shh, shh. Then background action, except this time, instead of saying bring it to life, he quickly adds dead, dead, dead. We all thought that to be one of the funnier commands that we had heard so far. As the shoot begins, the lifeboat rows slowly into the debris field. We hear Officer Lowe crying, "Is there anyone out there? Oh God, is there anyone alive?" Lori, a gentleman that was on the front, was holding a light and he leans over the bow. He replies in the same distressing tone, "They're dead, sir. They're all dead." The lifeboat rows through slowly, moving some of us with the oars. We trust James, Greg, and the others not to hit us in the head as they pass, although they do have fun dripping water on our faces to see us flinch. I can hear the boat approaching. I am in a position to open one eye and see what is coming. Greg's oar comes out of the water, over my head and down under my butt. For him to make another stroke on cue, he had to lift me a bit. So to help him, I just kind of pushed out off the bottom and slowly turn out of the way. Later, we laugh about it because I told him to be kind to me with the oar. Also, I find out that he has two other brothers on the set, Jeff and George. They have a business in Oceanside, only about 15 minutes from my house. Well, we do a few takes and we sit around while we shoot the scenes for rescuing Kate and a Chinese man, Van Ling. Here again, we cannot see a lot of what is happening. I know that Kate is on what looks to be a very elaborate carved door, which is not a door. It was the panel above one of the buffets. This is the same piece that we saw them fix the other day. They were actually working on it. She is blowing a whistle that was taken from a dead man or given to her before her and Leo are separated. She is very weak, close to being unconscious from hypothermia. The only way she is making any noise with the whistle is with the rhythm of her breathing. We wrap and go to makeup for them to remove all the stuff in our hair and our face. It took over an hour and it was not pleasant. We don't get home until about 10:30. Before we go to bed, Anna, a girl that was staying with me at the time, we tell each other how we felt when Officer Lowe would speak. We both agree that it really got to us. By the third take of hearing, "Is there anyone alive out there?" I found myself sobbing as I heard those words over and over that day. Now alone and the lights are out, I think back on those words again. It takes me to the time when this was real, and I can't help but cry myself to sleep. And that was that day.
Amazing. And that is one thing that I think about often is, so many people like myself are just such huge fans of the movie that we can't let it get lost, the actual historical event. And I can't imagine what it was like for you on set, experiencing, you're in 75-degree water, but just imagining the actual night. That is just one of the days of Judy's on-set experience. She's got her whole entire journal, her whole entire experience available for you to enjoy and share the journey with her, living the legend. And about your journal, it has to be one of the cornerstone, pieces of cinema history that came from that movie, because you happen to have everyone and anybody you could find on set sign it. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, I kept the journal. It was just the spiral notebook.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big one. It was just, big enough. And I'll demonstrate this when we go to Las Vegas. Ellen and I, my really good friend Ellen, who's also the frozen dead Irish mommy, her and I were practically inseparable from the first day when we met at Senior Frogs, because we both had classic cars. I had a 62 Chevy SS Impala. She had a 62 Alfa Romero. We knew the days, we had to plan like the day that we weren't going to be in the water, obviously. And anytime that we weren't near water, I had that book with me, and I had it safely tucked in a baggie under my skirt. And anytime I had a chance, I would have people sign it. The behind the scenes people. I mean, I just didn't want to meet the actors.
Right.
I wanted to meet the guys that were doing the lights and the wiring and the camera work, everything. I wanted to meet everybody. I wanted to see it all and just get immersed in it. It was absolutely fascinating. And so I would just, if I saw somebody, I'd hand them the book and they'd sign whatever they want to sign. I did get Jim to sign it. I got all of the ADs. I got the PAs. I got the wardrobe people. I got some of the actors. I got Kate, Leo, Billy Zane. And, they were very happy to do so.
That is so wonderful. And what an heirloom that is. So cool. And so you were on set for nearly 7 months. I mentioned the tank was just your first real experience, but you were there throughout pretty much everything that needed crowds. And it's really interesting because Jamie and I, my wife and I, have had this conversation for years. It's amazing how well the background actors perform in Titanic. It's like everybody has a story, and you really bring it to life with your commitment and how much passion you bring to background work. And that is really something that people who have done the work before really appreciate. And that is something we've talked about for a long time. Let's talk about some of the other places other than getting smacked in the face by Kate. We can find you in the movie. Producer Sam shared the third class party scene where Kate and Leo are dancing on stage. You're right there at the side clapping along. But there's also a really great shot of you when the fella spills her beer all over her. Leo shoves him away. Sorry. You're just kind of chatting with your friends in the corner there, and you kind of look over and go, just another fun time at the party.
Yeah.
There's Jack shoving the fella away that just spilled the beer all over Kate, and Judy in the back there. Just enjoying the time. This was really interesting to me because reading in your book how horrible the conditions were on that set. They didn't have smoke machines, so they were encouraging the actors to actually smoke as many cigarettes as they could while people were dancing and running around.
Yeah. and no air.
No air conditioning. It
had to be that was actually the most uncomfortable set throughout the whole shoot.
Can't believe it.
It was so hot in there, and it was brutal.
Can't imagine. And especially, if you're a union actor, like there's so many things and safety thing. I don't know if that would happen today. Just, we don't have smoke machines. So light up those cigarettes in this really hot room. And while we're all dancing around making a movie, that had to be really rough. We can also see you run. You had how many months probably of just running up and down the deck when the ship's going down.
Yeah.
But there's also a really great shot of you when Kate makes the decision to jump from the lifeboat back onto the lower deck there. And you happen to be running by at that point. And
yes.
It's you in the brown skirt and the shawl there.
Yeah.
What's going on? So they had you changing from third class costume to first class costume as needed throughout, right?
Well, I was third class for 3-4 months. And then all of a sudden they said, let's have you be first class. And so I'm what we call one of the ladies in red. There were 3 of us.
Love
and
it.
At one point you could actually see us running on the deck, but we don't know where it is now.
Right. You're also in the praying scene as the ship's going down and that tilt is happening and everybody's holding on for dear life. You're holding the priest's hand.
Yes.
As he's praying. That's you in the
right there.
Blue shawl over your head.
Well, it's actually gray.
Oh.
But
right.
Yeah, it's really odd that this particular scene made it because they actually shot it from 2 other angles where you could see me and you can see Ellen up there with the baby.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was kind of bittersweet that they didn't pick one of the scenes that you could actually see me, my face.
Sure.
But, oh, well.
You never know once that edited movie comes out, how much of you is actually going to make it on.
Oh, yeah.
That's got to be tough. And then, but you were in other iconic scenes too. Like one of the most exciting parts of the end there is when Cal's chasing him down the stairs with the gun and you're running up past Kate and Leo as they're going down. Yeah.
That was the night that I talked to Billy Zane out by the catering tent because there was only a handful of extras that were there for that particular scene. And he actually waited there for me to run clear back down to the wardrobe department and get my journal. I didn't have it that night, and he waited there for me so he could sign it for me.
Oh,
so
I hear he's a wonderful fella in person.
He was really nice, super nice. It's like I'd heard that we were going to hate him in this movie. And I said, are we really going to hate you as bad as we saw, like when he was in that other movie? He goes, you're going to hate me more.
He plays a great bad guy. Yes. I hope you enjoy your time together.
Exactly. What's so funny?
Put the diamond in the coat. Noah, my 5-year-old.
Put the coat on her.
We quote Titanic so often in my house. My 5-year-old walks around going, I put the coat on her! And it's just, it makes me laugh every time. You mentioned in a previous conversation that we had that everybody always asks about Kate and Leo. So I have to touch on it here on the show. How were they to work with?
Kate and Leo, when I went down there, I did not know who they were. That was not my first interest. I wanted to meet Jim Cameron. And we even joked about meeting Arnold Schwarzenegger, which I did one night. I was next to Kate for quite some time in the water scene. And she was really nice. And so was Leo. He was all these, both of them are kids to me. I had children their age. And so, at that particular time, just those short periods of time that I was with them, because you really don't stand there and talk to somebody, especially when you're getting ready for a scene.
Sure.
You just kind of like, well, how are you today? I'm fine, It's really funny how I got Kate to sign my book. Every time I was with her, we were in the water, so I didn't have it with me. And the wardrobe lady knew that I wanted to get it. And she knew that I had my journal in my bag at wardrobe. And she went and got my journal and took it to Kate. And Kate signed it for me. So that was something that was really special. And Leo, I got right at the last day. He signed it, and he signed it really sloppy. And he just held it up and he goes, "Look at that. How do you like that one?" So it's like really sloppy. Leonardo DiCaprio.
That free spirit, Jack Dawson.
Best wishes. I forget what he said. I'd have to get it out and look at it. But they were nice. Had a good time. They were both real troopers, especially Kate. I mean, it was when she had to do the water scene where she goes with the axe in that water. She did not have a wetsuit on, and she was cold.
Yeah,
she got cold. They had a little heated, like a water trough, and it was full of warm water. And every time they'd pull her out of there, they'd put her in this tank to get her warm.
Wow, it's got to be so tough.
Yeah.
I want to touch on one more thing about your book before I talk about the trash piles and the collecting, and we have to say goodbye. But you mentioned in one of the last, I think it was one of your last days there, being this sensation of, and it totally struck a chord with me because I totally got what you were saying. It's kind of a combination of, I've had situations where it was like after hours at Disneyland, I just finished a rehearsal and all the lights are on and the music is playing and I'm the only one walking down the street. I've had that feeling a couple of times, and it's a really magical feeling. And the one I'm referring to now in your book is a kind of a combination between that and recently last year I went on my first cruise. It was a Polly's Picnic cruise, and I spent a lot of time on the front deck. There's a helipad right at the front where you would have your King of the World scene. But I'd go out there late at night, midnight maybe, and just there's benches there. And I would just lay on a bench and look up at the stars and hear the water and feel the wind and just think of, I don't know, I'm reminded of scenes, the scenes from Titanic when Jack's laying on the bench, but just hearing the water and imagining the feeling kind of what people on that ship might have felt before the tragedy. And you touched on it toward the end of your book where you spent some time alone on the deck, and the whole set was built right there on the water. So you're standing on the deck of Titanic and alone with the ocean. Can you kind of describe what that sensation was like?
Yeah, it was surreal. You could get yourself into a certain position on the deck where you didn't see the shore. All you could do is you had the railing, and they had chairs and, the lounge chairs there. Mm-hmm. And you could kind of get in a position where you could just kind of sit back or stand there where you didn't see the shoreline, and you could just see the water out there. And it was dark, and the ship was always lit. Yeah, like that right there. Now, if you were to walk over to the edge of that and look down, there's a parking lot there, and it's full of all the equipment. And then you have this rock berm that went down to the beach. But being like that at night, it was, it's really hard to express that feeling. I mean, you could just put yourself in 1912 on that deck.
So magical.
Yeah. Well,
something that's mind-boggling, and it just goes into with the whole thing about nobody knowing this, nobody working on the film knew that it was going to be the classic epic that it is. After the shoot was over, they scrapped the set and put it in a huge junk pile on somebody else's land and drove away. And so salvagers over the years would come collect pieces, not knowing, before the movie came out, not knowing what they were getting, and keeping them for late to sell later on. But a lot of the set pieces, props, as I mentioned at the start of the episode, wound up in collectors' hands. Were you able to get anything from the set after you wrapped?
Well, I have little pieces like of the deck and things like that. And then I had sent you a photo of one of the staircase banisters. And as far as I know, it's the only piece of the grand staircase that exists right now.
And that is
if
a
there
beautiful
are
piece
pieces out there, I'm sure they kept the railing, the metal railing, but a lot of it was just busted up and broken. I got this particular piece out of the dump site. I restored it. One side was completely like shaved off, like it had been drug along the ground, but there was enough of it there that I could rebuild it. And then I took a Dremel, and with all of the pieces that I had, I was able to match that up and just basically recarve a lot of that and then stain it and put it back together again. And I have that piece still. I really like to get the pineapple.
Oh yeah,
to finish it off.
Absolutely. You also got pieces of one of the miniature models that was built for some of the filming.
Yes. After the film, and during the film, I collected, like everything I could find. Paper. I even have one of Jim's got milk with the milk mustache, and I think there's a picture of the Titanic behind him, or like the standee. And then I found these pieces that I had looked at, and they did come from the 65-foot model. So it's, like a Barbie size, that little lounge chair. I got 2 of those.
And the blanket, the blanket that it's sitting on was one of the Carpathia blankets that they handed out to everyone who got rescued and was on the deck in that last shot where Cal is looking for Rose.
Right.
And you got to take one of those home with you as well. That's super.
Actually, I was given that by Ed Marsh, the editor.
Very cool. Such cool pieces, but none cooler than the memory and you sharing your experiences with us. That is just such a gift that you've given fans of the film for years to come. What is the biggest takeaway that I know that this experience literally changed your life going forward? But what is the big gift that being a part of this project has brought to you?
We're part of Titanic's continuing history. That was very important. That's very important to me. I was able to meet a lot of people that I'm still close friends with, like Don Lynch, Ken Marshall, Park Stevenson, and it brought me into the history of Titanic even more. Fascinated, like I said, from when I was little, and the discovery of it's just being part of Titanic's continuing history. And it was not just being in a movie to me.
Well, it's wonderful. I cannot thank you enough for being so kind and generous with your time and sharing your experience with us. Anyone who wants to, I'm sure everyone out there wants to learn more about your experience, and you certainly can learn about every day on set and more in Living the Legend, the Journal of a Titanic Background Actress. Judy Prestininzi's personal journal of her whole entire experience working on the film. And you can get that on Amazon, and it'll be at your doorstep within a week. It's been my experience.
That particular photo was taken the same night as the flying scene.
Oh, wow.
So that is the sunset.
The first kiss?
Yeah, that's the sunset when they go out. I'm flying, Jack, I'm flying.
Oh,
that scene right there.
That's,
so while they were doing that, we were back there taking those pictures.
On the other end. I love that. I didn't know that about that photo. And it's on the cover of your book. That is wonderful. And I can't wait to chat with you again. I get to see you in August, next month already, at the Titanic convention in Las Vegas. Can't wait to meet you in person then. But I cannot say thank you enough. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up at home for Judy Prestininzi.
Thank you.
What an absolute treat to have Judy Prestininzi on our show. Thank you again, Judy. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to my wife here on the podcast for the first time, Jamie Carganilla.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be on your show. This is great. Thank you.
So happy to have you here. This is a preview of our next episode. We're going to get to spend all of episode 4 with you, hearing your music, hearing some of your original songs as well. But I wanted to tag you on as kind of like a teaser for that episode, but also because this has like a fun Titanic tie-in. I said to Jamie, I got Judy Prestininzi coming on. Will you come sing some Celine Dion? And she was like, not that song. But we actually had the pleasure of going to see Titanic, the musical, when we were in New York last. Our friend Tom Carosa took us, and it's a Titanic spoof using all Celine Dion music. And we were talking about this song, and we were like, this is kind of like Rose's song.
Totally is.
It's a Celine song, and it's like your favorite or one of your favorites.
Yeah, it's a classic, and it totally goes with the Titanic story. It's Rose's anthem.
And so here is Taking Chances, as performed by Jamie Carganilla.
Don't know much about your life. Don't know much about your world, but don't wanna be alone tonight on this planet they call Earth. You don't know about my past, and I don't have a future figured out. Maybe this is going too fast, and maybe it's not meant to last. But what do you say to taking chances? What do you say to jumping off the edge? Never knowing if there's solid ground below, or hand to hold, or hell to pay. What do you say? What do you say? I just want to start again. Maybe you could show me how to try. Maybe you could take me in somewhere underneath your skin. What do you say to taking chances? What do you say to jumping off the edge? Never knowing if there's solid ground below, or hand to hold, or hell to pay. What do you say? What do you say? And I had my heart beaten down, but I always come back for more. Yeah, there's nothing like love to pull you up when you're lying down on the floor. Yeah, so talk to me like lovers do. Yeah, walk with me like lovers do, like lovers do. What do you say to taking chances? What do you say to jumping off the edge? Never knowing if there's solid ground below, or hand to
You're amazing.
Thank you.
Join us for episode 4. It's a whole episode full of Jamie singing covers and originals.
Yes.
We'll
See
see
you
you
then.
soon. If you're enjoying this podcast and would like to consider supporting the production of it for as little as $1 a month, I ask you to please consider joining our Cove community on Patreon. You can access exclusive Patreon Cove content like monthly bonus request episodes or request-episodes, podcast shoutouts, virtual Zoom hangouts, access to the live recording session archive, stickers in the mail, and much more. Drop in, check it out, say hello to the Cove community. Ready to welcome you at patreon.com/COVEpodcast.
I put the coat on her!